Right now, we are being joined by our second guest today, our German colleague. I will add him to the stage now, Rainer Rupp, who's again joining from Germany. Just very briefly, Rainer used to work for NATO back in the 70s, and between 1977 until the collapse of the Eastern Bloc, he actually forwarded
even a bit longer, 93.
Even a bit longer. He forwarded intelligence to East Germany. So he's a living and working spy who then also was in prison for 7 years for his spy fare. Rainer, welcome to our live stream.
Oh, glad to be there. Hello.
And
Hi,
Rainer, the other guest here is Thomas Karat. We just discussed one of his articles, and he made the point that not only are we being manipulated in the media, in mainstream media, with massive floods of pro-war propaganda, but also this cognitive warfare of NATO is going on as we speak in order to kind of massage in the idea of war with Iran. Do you agree with that?
Yes, so I fully agree with that, but it is nothing new in the case of Iran, and that goes back as far as I can remember. I mean, and we had already this kind of what we call threatening build-up of aircraft carrier strike groups, etc., etc. In order to force negotiations. I mean, they don't want to have negotiations. They want regime change, and they want. I compare it always. Put a gun to somebody's head and say, I only want to talk to you." But the more interesting thing about this is that each time the civilian the politicians in the United States, in pushing the military to build up this horrible, threatening positions with there were 2 aircraft carriers, battle groups, and all and on in the surrounding nations, they've been concentrating, flying in bombers and aircraft. And to increase the capabilities to strike Iran. And that was 2007, and in 2012, under Obama, we had 3 aircraft carrier strike groups confronting Iran, plus all the aircraft on the surrounding air bases, etc. And each time, the American military said, no, that's enough. We don't want to fight. And they don't want to fight for good reasons. In fact, in 2012, there was a unique situation. I mean, never happened before. There were the 4. I mean, in the United States, you have I can't get the English name for it now. Waffengattungen.
Armed forces.
You have the Army, armed services. You have the Army, the Navy. You have the Air Force, and as a separate armed service, the Marines. Now, in each of these armed services has a chief of staff, and out of these 4 chiefs of staffs, 3 actually went public and said, we don't want to fight Iran. That is too dangerous. The only one who was for it was, of course, the Air Force. Quite clearly, the Americans have that saying, the Air Force doesn't make widows and orphans. I mean, they never had that many casualties in the Air Force, never comparable, for instance, with the Navy or the Marines or the Army. So they get into the aircraft, throw a few bombs, and back at 4 o'clock, and gin tonic in the officers' mess. So that's the attitude of the brave American pilots. But in each case, it didn't come to a fight. Now, the point I try to make, today, his Trump super duper wonderful, marvelous Armada is sailing threateningly to threaten Iran, and it is less strong than ever than the times before. At a time where Iran is stronger than ever, and that the only dangerous thing about the whole thing is that you can't calculate, or you cannot expect a rational behavior from Trump, because it becomes increasingly irrational. What we do know about Trump, and I've been following him right from the beginning, and not just this turnaround. What we do know about Trump, he does not insist on. I mean, he doesn't want to get into a longer war. The problem is that the Iranians have said, if you hit us again, we're going to go all in.
Yep.
And as far as I know, and I also heard it said from, I cannot vouch for it, but Mersheimer said just recently that the Israeli, when Netanyahu came to the United States just the other day, he didn't come to encourage Trump for another war against Iran, but just the opposite, because the Israelis aren't ready. Now, I've just been in preparation of this talk. Now, I was just digging out a congressional report of the Congressional Research Service from my archive, and just to point out what the not I mean, you know what the THAADs are, the terminal high altitude interceptors, which are supposed to be super duper, even better than Patriot, because Patriot is a dud anyway. And this is from the Congressional Research Service, and it's a congressional document, and it says THAAD interceptors accounted for almost half of all U.S. and Israeli interceptors used to protect Israel against Iranian medium-range ballistic missiles. The study estimated that 92 THAAD interceptors were used during the conflict out of an estimated supply, overall U.S. holdings supply of 632 interceptors. So all over, that makes about 15% were used against Israeli interceptors. Now, the more interesting point comes, and I won't read much longer. It could take 3 to 8 years to replenish the THAAD interceptor stockpile. 3 to 8 years. And of each interceptor valued at 12.7 million. And the total procurement request, the procurement for this year, the official budget request, is for 37 interceptors for a total of 840 million for this year to a budget request. Doesn't mean they're going to come on stream. Mm-hmm. So it will last quite a while. So they are not ready. They're not ready.
Hey, very brief intermission because I was recently banned from YouTube. And although I'm back, this can happen anytime again. So please consider subscribing not only here, but to my mailing list on Substack. That's pascalotta.substack.com. The link's going to be in the description below. And now back to the video. They are not ready, but then Thomas, maybe you can jump in here. I mean, if you combine that with, Thomas made the argument, you know, the drum beat of the media drum beat is relentless and creates this urgency. What does that tell us, Thomas?
It's a good question. I fully agree. I also heard Mishama saying that Netanyahu actually begged Trump not to attack right now. Yeah. On the other hand, the buildup, what we are seeing here, is massive. They cannot sustain this for a very long time. So if Trump is aware, then if Trump is aware to what Rainer just said, then it could point to, let's say, power diplomacy, if we can call it like that, yeah? Building up the pressure to achieve a certain goal. I don't know.
Rainer, what are you making out of it? If they are not ready, and if it's clear, I mean, if it's clear to you that they are not ready, then what's the strategy? I mean, it's kind of a dumb thing to show up with a force that is smaller than the one that you used before when you also didn't attack. And are they under this Venezuela syndrome where they think that by having enough assets, then you can now make the point and get through your demands?
I only put it that way. Only a non-military man or someone who's been smoking something in the military, which is supposed to happen occasionally, could come to that conclusion. But you talk about strategy. What was the strategy in Venezuela? You see, about half a year before this, the Russian special operation in Ukraine, there was a long, over many pages article in the New York Times. Where the military man, the politicians, and the Pentagon were boasting about what they had achieved over the last decades. They have achieved now, I've tried to put it in very short terms, that they could everywhere around the world do the kind of thing what happened in Venezuela. 60,000 men in arms, half of them special forces, trained for very special kind of different operations of the Pentagon, the other half under the command of the CIA, and they all would operate together and complement each other according to the task. They could go in anywhere around the world and out within 24 hours to kidnap somebody, to eliminate somebody, or whatever. And that's what they thought would be the future of warfare. Now, they'd prepared for all that since the end of the Cold War, and since 2007, since Putin was the laughing stock in I think it was in Munich, and made come on, you can go home. We don't want to talk with you. You have to do what we tell you. Things changed, and you must remember, and that I do remember very well, how the blueprints, for instance, the Russian military science, they had absolutely stunning military scientific breakthroughs, which we see now being put on, deployed in the fields. Only in those days, when those breakthroughs, theoretical breakthroughs, had been achieved, they were just far. The Russians or the Soviets didn't have the means to militarize these things. Meanwhile, digital developments allow the militarization of these, and they are implemented in electronic warfare, in all kinds of things, in hypersonic missiles, in having a underwater missile traveling in an underwater missile, which, by the way, the Iranians also have. The NATO code name was Squall, specially developed as an aircraft carrier killer, which travels underwater in some kind of a plasma, in a gas part. It's the only people who are, or only countries who manage that are the Soviets, now the Russians, and the Iranians. Why the Iranians? Because when the Soviet military-industrial complex collapsed, lots of, the Soviet Union, you had all the Central Asian republics, socialist republics, scientists from there, they preferred the Iranians were not stupid. They said, "Come on, you can have a good work here." They preferred working in Iraq, in Iran, than being a taxi driver in Moscow, as many of these highly skilled people had to earn their living. So the squall arrived also in Iran. Has got a different code name. It's been further developed. And it travels underwater at speeds of 360 kilometers. Its only disadvantage is the range is not so far, and it makes an awful lot of noise, but it can be fired from a little boat. And the Iranians have practiced swarm attacks with little boats. And so you see, American ships are really in danger if they get too close.
Do you think the Americans are trying to bait the Iranians into firing the first shot? And Thomas actually made the observation, right, that the aircraft carrier that's now parked in front of Iran is actually a nuclear powered one. So attacking that thing would potentially lead to an ecological catastrophe.
Well, this is always the modus operandi has always been the modus operandi of the Americans, to provoke someone so much that the other side fires the first shot. I mean, this is what happened at Pearl Harbor. Yeah. That didn't come out of the blue sky, as the Americans say. No, the Americans tried to strangle the Japanese. I'm not defending the Japanese fascists at the time, or imperialists. I mean, they did horrible things in China and even the region, but they tried to strangle and cut the Japanese off the supply of oil, etc. So what did they do? They used their navy to cut the Japanese off the supply. So what did the Japanese do? They thought they could eliminate the threat by destroying the Pacific Fleet in Hawaii, which they didn't do very well.
Right. Thomas, do you want to jump in?
So if somebody operandi, they pressure someone so much that in the end you react, and then, oh, we've been attacked.
Yeah, so again, like Rainer said, apologies, we discussed this before, it's the old playbook. Yeah, this is not new, we have seen it in the past. Right?
But it goes hand in hand with a lot of media attention in the West, actually. And sorry, Rainer, Thomas was saying this is it's a playbook, right? We've seen all of this before, but it also goes hand in hand with a lot of public signaling. I was in Vancouver just a week ago for a conference, and there was a relatively large protest. I would say 5,000-6,000 people easily. Iranians, a lot of Iranians and Canadians saying like, Trump, start now, regime change must come. So a good part of the population is sold on the idea that, regime change is now not just a nice to have, but it is a humanitarian necessity. Also because we are being fed this idea of like 30,000 dead Iranian protesters in Iran. I mean, it's quite insane, the length to which these people go.
You want me to answer, or Rainer?
Maybe Rainer?
Yes. Look here, when they start, I have also contacts into Iran, and I've been a regular been interviewed by IRIB quite a few times. Now these are officials, but I also have some private contacts via some friends here who have relatives back home who are not supporters of the Mullah regime, but they are Iranians and Iranian patriots. and they phoned home, etc. And that was I had similar reactions from other people. Now that is not. This is all anecdotal in a way, but what else do we get from the other side? I mean, it was quite clear if who was it even? I think it was Pompeo who said, "We are behind you," and Mossad is behind you. And even the Israelis said, "We are helping you." With whom are they helping them? With the MEK, probably. Now, the MEK was not so long ago. Well, a few years, nevertheless, was considered to be was on the American list of a terror list. Now they as when the Americans can use the terrorists, then they're suddenly being freedom fighters, moderate freedom fighters. Like we've seen that happening in Syria very well. Now in Syria, the Al Qaeda terrorists are running the government with American support. So what happened in Iran is not a popular uprising. And the idea of having boots on the ground in terms of the MEK and people, I've seen the videos actually. They're hiding behind or shooting out of the masses, shooting and attacking security services. That was that was Maidan repeated.
Exactly.
The Maidan
Exactly. Yeah.
repeated in Iran. So of course the civilians will be killed, but not in. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, there was a competition who could put the highest casualty figures out. It why not 300,000? Yeah, the next one. Just to stir up the people. There's no proof of it, and we know it's the boots on the ground. They thought we then could go in Venezuela style, kidnap Khamenei or who else, take him out, and then the regime changed. And then these boots on the ground, so MEK and some Mossad agents, etc., and there will be chaos and new things happen. Only the Iranians are not ready for that. I mean, the mass of the population isn't ready for that. And even if that had happened, what happened? What's the result of this glorious super duper raid into Caracas? Yeah. Okay, they nabbed Maduro. They showed, oh, look here, we can do that. But what has come out of it? What in reality has come out of it on the ground?
Yeah, no,
And that is even what is strategy. There is no that is show, and the problem is that Trump's got. I mean, not even the population in the United States asks what happens in Venezuela. What was it all about? What was it all about with Greenland? And Trump had two setbacks, basically. Two setbacks. He needs some success, and that might be even if he bombs against and declares it a victory. In Iran, bomb again and bomb once again all the nuclear installations, which they already had this absolutely sure that they had already then destroyed last time. But the Iranians must be very, very good because they have rebuilt them all in the meantime. And so the Americans have to destroy them again. So drop a few bombs, declare it victory, and get out. Only the Iranians have said that we're not going to play that one along. We did it once because I think it was a mistake that they did agree to the ceasefire right away. strategically, they should have continued at least a few more days to show the whole world where Israel and where the Americans stand. It would have prevented the build-up now. But I think they will not continue just to absorb the strike without reacting.
And
I think they have to.
Thomas, this brings us again to this cognitive warfare idea, of course, that the entire media onslaught that we saw and that you in the first part laid out so well is actually just part of the attack, part of everything that the United States uses in order to achieve regime change. This is part of the attack, and it's directed toward the Iranian population. It's directed toward the Iranian government. It's directed towards the European governments and toward the European publics. It's an all-out modern 2026 type of warfare attack on the other one, short of the missiles flying so far.
And it's becoming increasingly more sophisticated due to social media, because we all have social media digital fingerprints. They know our psychological profile better than we know it ourselves. They even know the cycle that we go through, so they can target with pinpoint accuracy. They can target you, Pascal, different than Rainer, and they target me different than you two gentlemen. And that's the scary part. And they do this with very, very sophisticated psychological means, right? So the main goal of propaganda is to avoid that anyone detects there is propaganda, which in the West, as I said at the very beginning, they are successful, because in the West, we don't believe we have propaganda. Only the Russians and the North Koreans, right? So here we go.
No, it takes it takes people who've seen it before in order to kind of recognize it. Yeah. Rainer, please.
But there's one thing, propaganda, and there's another thing is the real world. And the real world the real reality will eventually win. And if it comes to a clash, it will be a hard awakening for us, and for us too. I mean, because we will be affected too. If the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and we don't buy any more Russian oil or gas, of course, and it's going to be very hard for Germany too. So anyway, you surely know Sun Tzu, the art of war, not the art of the deal, but the art of war. And one of the key tenets in this of Sun Tzu is that if a warlord moves into a field, it's very important that he's well aware about the weaknesses and the strengths of the opponent. But even more important, it is to know your own weaknesses and own strengths. Now, in this respect, be it Ukraine or be it now Iran, the West or the United States have failed on both accounts. They just live still in their idea of we still are the superpower, we still have the mightiest, the shining army in the world, we can still do what we want, and yes, they still can do what they want in their hemisphere, just for pure logistical reasons. The Russians and the Chinese are very reticent to fight a war on the other side on the globe against a very mighty opponent. That is no Americans are still very mighty, especially with their main force. Their main force of power projection is the Navy, and that is still unparalleled. Only if they come closer to China or closer to Russia, I think the former Minister of Defense in Russia, Shoigu, phrased that very well in the year of 2015, I think, in a speech. We don't need work for aircraft carriers. We need aircraft carrier killers. And that they have achieved with their new aircraft carrier killers. in a real case of war, those aircraft carriers don't even get within reach within reach of the U.S. aircraft of the Russian border. I think they probably wouldn't even get across the middle of the Atlantic. So with China too, and you can actually see a confirmation of this because if you look at the budget forecast and the 5-year budget for wish list of the Pentagon, you don't see any more new aircraft carriers. Yeah? They're rather more small ships and preferably automated ships. I mean, bigger drones, ship drones, because they realize what's going to happen with their big ships. They are sitting ducks in the modern age.
If you allow me very briefly, I would like to come back to something that Rainer just said, Sun Tzu and the art of war. Now, Rainer lives in Germany, I believe, right? So the Germans have a word, Putin Versteher. I mean, this links to cognitive warfare, yeah? So the German population has been so indoctrinated that they believe someone who understands Putin Versteher, is a moron or a traitor or whatever, yeah? But it's the most basic rule in warfare is you have to understand your opponent, right? You even have bumper stickers on cars, Putin Versteher, or these kind of stickers. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, we in the Cold War, we used to have them. We called these Putin. I mean, the equivalent of nowadays Putin Versteher. We called them Kremlinologists. We had a whole armada of them. They had important chairs at universities. We invited them at NATO to find out the thinking, the strategic thing, what changed. So, from economics to politics to the military changes, etc. We want to know what happened, and vice versa. It happened also in Russia. It's the most important thing is to know. Yeah? Not only know, but also understand how the pieces of mosaic fit into the whole overall picture. Knowledge alone doesn't make it. It has to. You have to understand.
Stay here, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the mechanisms through which then decisions are being taken. Otherwise you can't make accurate predictions. But it seems that at the moment we are also going through an entire, attack and assault on our ability to make sense and do exactly that, right? Like, and by we I mean us, the general public on the ground, that we are being told you must not attempt at understanding the mechanisms for taking decisions.
Just let AI make the decision for you. Let artificial intelligence make the decision for you. That's much more clever than the ordinary person. So,
it's I mean, we're going through quite an insane moment, and Rainer, I would like you to stay on just a bit more so that we can do one more segment. But Thomas, thank you very much for giving us a whole hour of your time. People who want to find your work, they should go and find you on your YouTube channel. That is Salt Lake.
Yes. So
can I just ask Thomas where he lives? Where do you live, Thomas?
I live in the Netherlands.
Which country do you come from, Thomas?
Well, I rather keep that offline, yeah. But Rainer, a quick question. I would be very interested to have you on my own show if you're interested, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So
you get
I will leave you.
Yeah.
Yes, I will leave you, gentlemen, now. Just a last comment. I'm repeating. If anyone wants this practical user guide on how to analyze headlines like I described, reach out to me via Substack. Very easy. Rainer, it was my pleasure talking to you, and thank you, Pascal, for having me on. Always a pleasure. Okay.
Thank you very much, Thomas. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.